In Peru, hundreds of people marched in Lima late Wednesday after the Congress bowed down another bid to advance elections to 2023. In the United Kingdom, thousands of teachers and workers go on a strike demanding higher wages to cope with the cost of living crisis. And Pope Francis continues his tour of African countries as thousands of faithfuls gathered at the Martyr Stadium in Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of the Congo, to meet the pontiffate. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the TeleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. In Peru, hundreds of people marched in Lima late Wednesday in what is known as a daily meeting in the center of the capital after the Congress vowed down another bid to advance elections to 2023. After the 5 hours of debate, Peruvian lawmakers rejected a bill that will have advanced elections to December by 69 votes to 53 with 2 abstentions. The rejected bill, mainly promoted by the right, was rejected by left parliamentarians who asked for early elections and a referendum for a new constitution in line with the claims of foreign demonstrators. On the streets after the vote, hundreds gathered again in the streets of the country's capital city as the Peruvian people assured that they will not rest until their demands are heard. And citizens of the Peruvian region of Arequipa expressed their rejection against the government of Dina Boluarte, which they describe as a dictatorship and genocidal.
A genocide is taking place. A dictatorship is taking place. There is a government takeover, and there is a genocide. And we're going to continue defending life, defending all our brothers. That is the reason why we're here, the 5 regions. And now it is getting even longer for this usurper to leave, because it was a coup. And we're also here to close the Congress.
After the Peruvian Congress failed to reach consensus once again, President Dina Boluarte announced the presentation of her own bill to advance the elections, as it had previously announced. The bill submitted by the executive to the Congress proposed elections in October 2023 for a term of office which will end in 2028. Meanwhile, according to the initiative, the Indian parliamentarians will remain in their positions until 2026. However, the Peruvian people insist on Boluarte's resignation, as they deem her government illegitimate and responsible for the thousands of deaths caused by police repression over the past weeks. Political and trade union organizations in Argentina marched to the courts in rejection of what they call a judicial mafia and for the democratization of justice. The demonstrators are demanding the democratization of the judiciary and have expressed support for the request of impeachment of the members of the Supreme Court of Justice. In this context, the judges of the 29th Criminal Oral Court, Juan Maria Ramos Padilla, points out that the judicial power will go down in history as the worst Supreme Court of Justice in the country, the one that committed and recovered of the most crimes. He also explained that the members of the highest court of justice have allowed the fight of foreign currency. They messed with the co-participation of the people of the country's town, leaving the poorest provinces with few resources. The Ecuadorian Parliamentary Commission investigating alleged corruption in the country's public companies met on Wednesday at the headquarters of the National Assembly. During the meeting, the Commission will gather legal criteria that will contribute to the auditing process and to establish political responsibilities. This is estimated that President Guillermo Lasso will be summoned for the next meeting on February 13th. Prior to the meeting, lawyer Héctor Venegas warned that in order to confront corruption, the approach with which the subject is threatened must be changed. Venegas also indicated that it is necessary to reinforce mechanisms that prevent corruption and to create programs that analyze the existing risk in the public offices. Let's take a very short break, but remember to follow us on our TikTok account as TeleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different format, news updates, and more. Stay tuned for more news. Welcome back to From the South. 3 Haitian Americans and a Colombian appeared on Wednesday before a U.S. federal court in Miami after being accused of participating in the assassination of Haitian President Jovenel Moïse in 2021. The U.S. Department of Justice indicated that the accused are James Solange, Joseph Vincent, Christian Sanon, and the Colombian citizen Germán Alejandro Rivera Garcia. The subjects are accused of comprising and, according to the court, of participating in crimes that culminated in the assassination of the Haitian president, as well as attending to the carried out a kidnapping. The suspects, who were extradited to the U.S. on Tuesday, they joined 3 others who were arrested last year. In the meantime, Haitian authorities have arrested 40 suspects, but without achieving concrete results. Thousands of teachers and workers went on a strike in the United Kingdom on Wednesday, calling for a higher wage in the largest walkout in over a decade. Europe is battling a cost of living crisis, and the latest strikes came a day after more than 1 million took to the streets in France, opposing pressure in the French government over pension reform plans. Britain's umbrella labor organization, the Trade Union Congress, called it its biggest day of strikes action since 2011. Teachers and train drivers were among the latest groups to add, as well as border forces were to UK air and seaports.
Schools haven't been funded adequately now for over a decade, since austerity onwards. The amount of money per pupil has gone down. Consequently, schools are beginning to find it difficult to provide the materials and the provisions that we need to teach our children adequately. And secondly, teachers have had below inflation pay rises pretty much consistently again since the Conservative Party came in and brought in austerity.
So I felt I had to come out not only on strike but also to demonstrate today, because real-time wages for my colleagues and myself and for so many other public sector workers in the UK have fallen by almost 25% in the last 5 years. In fact, what's happening is that people are having to make choices about whether to travel 2 hours to work or to save the fare in order to be able to eat that day.
The Russian Ministry of Emergency Situations reported on Thursday that at least 8 people were killed in a fire that swept through temporary housing for construction working in Crimea. The fire broke out overnight in the 2-floor building near the city port of Sevastopol. The victims were constructing workers from different Russian regions involved in the construction of the major highway across the peninsula. The ministry stated that the fire had been completely extinguished. The Russian news agency TASS quoted a police source as saying that the fire could have been caused by a short circuit in an electrical appliance, and according to the local investigator, the criminal investigation for wrongful death has been opened. A team of scientists at Northwestern China University of Agricultural and Fostering Science and Technology cloned 3 hosting the Frisian dairy super cows for the first time. The release from the university indicates that the cloning was accomplished by the somatic cells nuclear transfers. Scientists collected tissues from donors, cultured them, and proceeded to clone the embryos, which were then transferred into the uterus of recipient cows. Hide yelling long life and stress-resistant cows from different farms in the country were chosen from the cloning. Beijing has prioritized self-sufficiency in key things and has increased investments in the technologies related to the agricultural sector in an effort to bolster food security. This after some countries ban sales of Holstein-Friesian cattle to the Asian Union. In Japan, more than 200 flights were cancelled due to the biggest cold wave the country has suffered in the last decade, leaving heavy snowfall in most of the territory and also causing interruptions in rail and road traffic. According to the Japan Meteorological Agency, the phenomenon is causing minimum temperatures ranging from minus 12 degrees centigrade in Sapporo, north of the country, to minus 4 degrees in Tokyo and other central and western areas in the archipelago. Authorities expect that this snowfall to intensify until Thursday, with some areas of the country recording the lowest temperature in decade, as well as the possibility of snow in the cities such as Tokyo and Osaka. And we have more news coming up after this financial break, so don't go away. Welcome back. Thousands of faithful gather at the Martyrs Stadium in Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of the Congo, to meet Pope Francis. The 86-year-old Argentine pontiff met with youth leaders and Jesuit priesthood at the Martyrs Stadium as part of the Church of frontline work in the country with the largest Catholic contingent in Africa. The papal visit comes 2 weeks after the deadly attack claimed by the terrorist group Islamic State on a Pentecostal church in the province. The church's highest authority will also meet with victims of violence, displaced persons, members of the cleric, and representatives of charitable organizations. Moroccan citizens demonstrate in front of the parliament to show their support of the Palestinians and protest the normalization of Morocco's ties with Israel. The protest is organized in the context where since the middle of last year, Morocco and Israel have accelerated their cooperation in the economic, defense and security field in recent months. Morocco, it argues, is interested in developing its political, economic and military relations with Israel, and is accelerating the transfer of technology to reinforce its military superiority over the Polisario to protect itself from a possible Algerian offensive. Meanwhile, the civil Syria reproaches the thousands of Palestinian citizens killed by Israeli forces and the permanent violations of human rights in the Arab people. The Secretary of the Executive Committee of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, Hussein al-Sheikh, announced an agenda with the different factions to discuss possible responses to the illegal Israel occupation. The leader denounced the escalation of violence carried out by the Tel Aviv regime with its policy of forced displacements against Palestinian settlements through the demolition of houses in Jerusalem. The proposal of the Palestinian official comes after the President Mahmoud Abbas held a meeting with the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, where he held Israel responsible for the increase in repression and assassinations. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko completed a state visit to Zimbabwe on Wednesday, taking with him a package of new agreements and impressions. Lukashenko was accompanied to the Harare airport by President Emerson Mnangagwa, who said he felt special chemistry in these relations with the Belarusian leader. The official visit began on Tuesday and resulted in a face-to-face talks between the leaders, negotiations in a broad format, as well as a bilateral business forum. Bilateral agreement in the industrial, commercial, agricultural, mining, energy, and transporting sectors are the highlights of the visit. And everything is ready for the Caribbean Series, the biggest baseball event in the region, which brings together the A-League winning teams from 8 Caribbean countries. Almost 10 years later, the event returns to Venezuela. Our TeleSUR correspondent in Caracas, Leonel Retamal, with the details.
Venezuela hosts the biggest baseball event of the region. Everything is ready for the 65th edition of the Caribbean Series starting on Thursday, February 2nd. 21 out of 32 games of the tournament will be played here, the final one being on February 10th. This recently inaugurated Simon Bolivar Monumental Stadium, with a capacity for 40,000 spectators, the largest in Venezuela and in Latin America, will be the stage for the opening game of the Caribbean Series in Venezuela. The participating teams began arriving in Venezuela on Monday. 8 winners of the local leagues of their countries, Cuba, Panama, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Mexico, Colombia, and Curacao, are seeking to win the Caribbean title. Curacao participates for the first time and Cuba returns after 3 years of absence.
I come to know the Venezuelan stadiums, the one in La Guaira and the new one, which I'm told are spectacular. And also the atmosphere, which is totally baseball. So let's have a great time watching good baseball. In Cuba, for the first time, an elite baseball league was developed, which was won by agricultores, and this team represents us in an atypical event, where for the first time 8 clubs from 8 countries of the area are participating. I think it is an event.
Venezuela has just defined its representing team after the end of the country's regular league, which Leones del Caracas won over Tiburones de La Guaira, 2 teams that represent precisely the 2 cities that will host the tournament.
I love that idea because the doors are opening in Venezuela to sports, to baseball. And I hope they will open to other sports such as volleyball, indoor soccer, everything.
I think it's very good because there is that passion. People have that passion for baseball. That's the passion of all Venezuelans.
The second venue is located in the coastal state of La Guaira, facing the Caribbean Sea. It is the Jorge Luis Garcia Carneiro Stadium, with a capacity of 14,000 people, where 11 games will be played. The stadium is meters from the sea and is accompanied by other recently inaugurated attractions, a giant Ferris wheel, amusement rides, and a seaside promenade with other services for tourism.
People will see the real Venezuela. The Caribbean Series is an opportunity for people to get the best evidence of the affection, love, and reality of the Venezuelan people.
The last time Venezuela hosted the event was in 2014. In 2018 and 2019, it was suspended by the tournament's organizers due to the country's political situation. After almost 10 years, the series returns to Venezuela, which seeks to show the world the levels of political stability and economic growth achieved in recent years.
Leonel Retamal y Jesús Romero, TeleSUR, Caracas, Venezuela.
And we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our socials. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram as well. From TeleSUR English and from the South, I'm Ana Marrero, and thank you for watching.